Speaking of Connect the Dots, this is what we're doing. This is Connect the Dots. This is episode 2.
Go Rangers. We're going to the World Series.
So as a non-sports person, Jared, do you want to enlighten me what exactly happened? I know you told me earlier, but I promised I forgot.
For the first time in, was this 2023, right? 12 years. 2011 was the last time. The Rangers went to the World Series back-to-back in 2010 and 2011. Mm-hmm. And then we were kind of good to, I think, 2015, and then we've just sucked since then. And 2 years ago, we lost 103 games, I believe. If the Cooks are watching this, they'll correct me. They lost 103 games, and then last year they kind of bounced back a little bit. Didn't go anywhere. No playoffs. Nothing important. And then this year, they're like, hey, we're going to do better. They may make the playoffs. If they do, they won't go far. So when they made playoffs, which they actually at one point looked like they weren't going to do, we're like, well, round one, and then we probably won't go anywhere. And man, when they swept in round one, they won 3 games in a row. And then they played the Astros this last series, and it was up and down, but they pulled it out last night, and we're going to the World Series, and we beat the Astros, which makes me feel so much better inside. So go Rangers, and I'm going to live it up. The Rangers have never won a World Series. We're not historically that great of a franchise for baseball.
I've heard.
So this is really exciting. And as a Cowboys fan, this makes me really happy because the Cowboys are just constant disappointment.
Yeah, I don't really, as a non-sports fan, not that I think sports are bad or wrong, nothing like that. I don't watch them.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, we do spend way too much money.
I mean, I think it's strange thinking about what's one of the most iconic places in New York City. That little avenue where, what is it called? Times Square?
Yeah.
Like, when I think about Times Square, all I think about is, we're just celebrating commercials.
That's funny.
You know, because that's cool.
I think of New Year's.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. New Year's is fair.
Yeah, I think about New Year's when I think of Times Square.
I get that.
I got in a fight at Times Square one time when I was in high school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a story for another day.
Is it a story that they're here alive to share for today?
Yes, because fun fact, it was on I think it wasn't a weekend. It was a weekday. But Times Square is also crawling with police at night.
Yeah.
So these guys bumped into me and a couple of friends, like, on purpose. And so we kind of started pushing each other and kind of, it was getting a little rowdy. And the police came right then and there and separated us. And so it wasn't like a big thing, but it was like, this is about to go down. And this was, I don't know, 2010. It was 2010. So it was spring of 2010. It was my senior year of high school. I was still in high school.
Wow. Okay.
And so, yeah. So me and high school friends we were there for like a school trip.
Right.
And we were in suits and we looked real fancy. Like we had because we went to the Plaza Hotel for dinner. Like it was a big thing with the school. Because the school I went to every year, the seniors went to New York. And so we're in suits and like rolled up my sleeves, took off my jacket. Like it was about to go down. And me and a couple buddies were like, get ready to fight these people. And then a bunch of cops came. And we were like, whoa, hey.
Yeah.
Like they started blah, 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 blah. And they probably also were, late teens, early 20s too. Like it was just dumb kids messing with dumb kids.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think about that. So I think about that when I think about Times Square.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of time and big things,
this... Try to be quick, I guess.
Yeah. Well, kind of.
Kind of.
Well, we're still figuring it out. Speaking of figuring it out, that is what this is. This is it. Connect the Dots, the podcast. What is Connect the Dots?
What is Connect the Dots? So, really, this episode's about getting to know us. To kind of explaining what the goal is with this. And 3, how you guys can help us out and how we're going to do our best to help you out. So, for those who don't know, because hopefully other people are watching this besides people who go to our church, my name is Jared. I am the associate pastor here at Connect Church. And by here, this is actually a house on our property, so the church building is elsewhere. And these are just cool things that Tim set up, because Tim's cool like that. I've been here now 7 years. It'll be 8 years in March 13th, I believe is my exact hire date. So I came here as the student pastor. In my time here, I went from the student pastor to student/college pastor to student/college/young adults pastor to the next gen pastor to the associate pastor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of title changes. Did you ever have business cards with the names on them?
No.
Okay.
No, I did when I first got to Connect in 2016. Yeah, 16. We did then, but as it kind of... Well, I guess no, it's a lie. I had Next Gen Pastor cards.
Okay.
But honestly, like, the card phase really... Like, by the time I became on staff, like, more people were getting digital cards, and especially doing student ministry, as you know, like, why give paper anymore?
Right.
And so I've been here now 7 going on 8 years. When I came to Connect, I was single. My wife and I were dating, but we were having those conversations like, hey, are we going to get married or not? And if we're not, you just want to break up. We're having those conversations. So in my time at Connect, I came single. I've earned 2 degrees. I've gotten married. I've bought a house. I've had 2 kids, soon to be 3. So, and I'm only 31. I turned 32 this year, which is crazy. So I'll be 32 with 3 kids.
Nice.
And so I earned 2 degrees. Who knows? A doctorate maybe in the future, far from now. Maybe, I don't know.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, so here's hoping. I build a lot of furniture, and I love sports.
Awesome. Heck yeah.
And I love a good theology book. I don't read a lot of fiction. I read lots of theology, woodworking, and cookbooks. No,
I understand, especially that last point.
Cookbooks?
No. Maybe more. Here, I'll get to it with mine then. So that's Pastor Jared. I'm not pastor, but I am the student minister.
Not yet. We're working on it.
Yeah, not ordained or nothing yet. So I can't like blindside marry people on the spot. That's a power I would love to unlock at some point soon.
Somebody in this room may or may not have done that to somebody.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of people in covenants that don't realize.
Anyway,
I'm Tim. I've been at Connect since 2019, and pretty quickly on, I was hired as his intern in student ministry. Wasn't my first foray into ministry as work, as vocation, but at Connect it was, and I did that until I graduated in 2021 from UTA with my bachelor's in education. And I went and was a teacher first semester and loved that and all. But then we came up with the opportunity for me to come back on full-time as student minister.
Yeah.
And that was February of 2022. So I'm still a fresh young pup.
Really?
In terms of full-time ministry. Yeah. And that was only a year and a half ago. Yeah. And it's been great.
Yeah.
I cherish having an education degree. Nothing wrong with biblical studies. This ain't throwing shade at all. But education is what I'm very familiar with my mother and all. She was a teacher.
Also, my children's minister growing up when I was a small wee lad
was my mom.
What's his mom?
Small world. Yeah. It's cool though.
And when I was an intern, he was my student.
Yes. Yeah. When I was a wee lad, as it were,
with lots of hair. On top of his head, not on his face.
Yeah, I don't have much now. In fact, it's pretty long.
Actually, yeah, this is the longest you've had in a while.
All things considered, it just takes so much time.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm slowly coming to join you.
We'll embrace you, the bald community. But you got time. You're gonna be fine. For now. But I'm looking forward to pursuing seminary and getting a master's someday. But right now, I'm content trying to apply what I know, and God will open up those doors when He does, and I'm excited for whenever that is.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to encourage Tim to get a doctorate or a PhD, either one, because Tim has a really cool name if you abbreviate it. So I think it would be so cool to call you Dr. T.C. Whitman.
It has a nice ring to it.
Has a cool ring, right?
I don't know. Like I barely read books in the sense of like it. I'm still learning how to read. Right.
He reads a ton. Tim's smart.
Well, thank you, brother. What is it? Proverbs 27:2 tells us not to compliment ourselves, but let the words of others be the. I'll take that.
There you go.
That's biblical. But yeah, no. I also shared some hobbies. It's not woodworking for me. It's leather work. So I've rebound Bibles. I've made wallets. Yep. All sorts of little knickknacks.
Yeah.
But I also read, and that's about it for my hobbies.
Yeah.
Similar to you, mostly nonfiction. I don't have a problem with fiction, but necessity of my job is one part. Certainly, theology is a primary interest, and theology doesn't have to be this big, heady, like goes over your head thing. Everybody technically has a theology. Everybody technically is a theologian. Everybody has an idea about God, whether that's good or bad.
Yeah. We'll have to get that. That's going to be a deeper podcast one day.
That'll be a deeper podcast for sure. But I struggle with reading fiction. It's hard because I'm so used to reading nonfiction that when I read fiction, I become too analytical, and it's a problem.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of very intelligent pastors are really nerdy, because they have to balance out some really deep theology, because it is overwhelming. But
well, that's enough about us specifically. One of the fun things about a podcast, that I hear most people say is you feel like you're there with them. Yeah, if it's done well,
you gotta be part of the group.
Yeah,
gotta know us a little bit.
So here, take a minute and tell us about yourself.
We're listening.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just kidding. I'm not that powerful. Not yet. But why are we doing this podcast?
So a couple of reasons why we want to do this podcast is, one, we want to help explain some things within the sermons that we do. So sometimes, and really the heart of this originally, and what we're going to try to do as we go on, is to do kind of sermon recaps during the week. A lot of times that'll probably just be us two. But sometimes we'll have Pastor Aleem come in, who is our lead pastor and who preaches more often than anyone else here. And then sometimes Tim will preach, or I'll preach, or we have a couple other gentlemen that preach. And we'll bring them on because we have some guys who are very experienced and some that are very young. And we'll talk about the ins and outs of the sermon, but also like, what is it like for someone who's learning how to preach on a more regular basis of, hey, what is the difficulties that you find? What does it look like? And we have a very diverse congregation of age and of race and backgrounds. And so it's been really interesting for us. Another big thing is we want to kind of tackle some hard things, some hard questions. And we're not always going to have the answer, and I'm sure sometimes we'll sit here and go, in these books where these really smart people have said this, we're kind of leaning on those. We'll talk about some things, and Tim and I don't agree on everything, which is really fun for us sometimes. And so we'll talk about some of that. We'll talk about one of the main reasons is to equip people how to have hard conversations. One, in the sense of here's some answers, and two, how to have healthy disagreement. Because like I said, Tim and I don't think we disagree a lot. No. But there are some things we actually do really disagree about. And there's some people that we're close with where we disagree on not
core essential things, but certainly things secondary.
Yeah, that do have some impact on our lives. And then another one is just to really kind of have an outlet to have different topics of conversation. And so we'll talk about this a little bit, but like, we want to hear from you guys, and you can send us questions. We would love to answer some of those.
No, absolutely. I think one of the most helpful things that a productive podcast like this can do is equip everybody who listens to it. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And not that we think we're the end all of all wisdom, we're the arbiter of all wisdom or something like that. But I know for us, when we have to prepare to teach something or have a conversation with somebody, whether that's in discipleship or an on-the-spot question a youth might pop towards you in the middle of your lesson, and you kind of are just like, hey, quit being distracting. But that's a great question.
Man, I bet that's never happened to you.
Never. But those are helpful for us. That helps us grow too, and reflect and prayerfully grow closer to God as well.
Yeah.
So with this podcast, we see some of the purpose now. Mm-hmm. What's some of the logistical stuff to this? What's it going to look like? Is this I can expect this to happen daily?
Yeah.
Is this once a week?
Yeah. Definitely don't expect daily.
Good. Thank
you. Not in a rude way. That's impossible. But weekly is our goal. So our goal is do we say Thursday or Friday? I can't remember.
Around time.
Thursday or Friday, we'll shoot up a new episode. And right now we're doing it on YouTube. Eventually, the goal is put it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts because we know sometimes it's easier to listen while you drive.
Yeah.
You can't do that on YouTube unless you do it unsafely, and we don't encourage that.
Or if you spend extra money for YouTube Premium, which lets you close your screen or something. But
I'm not spending money on that, but I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Whoa. Interesting.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So we're going to do it, once a week is our goal. We're going to do some long ones and some short ones. Probably the goal is more short than long, but we'll throw some long episodes in there. They may be on a different day or something like that nature.
Yeah. Depends on topic even sometimes.
Yeah.
Or how much we honestly have to say, because some stuff is really crystal clear.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot to say about it. Mm-hmm. That's a lie. We talk a lot.
Yeah.
And then the goal is to have some guests. Like I said, we'll see if Pastor Liam will want to come on, see some other people on staff come on, and some people in the church. And we also have some friends who don't go to church with us, but are extremely intelligent, and that we would love to have their opinions and thoughts on some of the stuff that we'll talk about. So we'll have some interesting conversations with other people. So we'll always be our two beautiful smiley faces.
Oh yeah, just a bit of banter between some lads.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think anything regarding content.
Okay.
But I think the last thing that we can wrap this up with is how can our audience help us help them?
Yeah. So for right now, what we would really appreciate is obviously like and subscribe. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're supposed to say that as a YouTube channel, and so there you go. There's going to be a button. I'm just kidding. There's not. I don't know.
We can be fancy.
I guess we can be fancy. Yeah.
Depends on the time.
Tim's the editor. Depends on his life. So, hey, I'm just saying, he's really good, but also at the same time, don't want to overwhelm you.
I appreciate it.
But also, one of the things that we would like is just some questions and topics and things like that. And for right now, you can just put those in the comments. We do read those. We'll post back on those if we need to. We'll probably set up an email at some point for people to send emails and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so if you want to send us some topics, those are the two big things, and we'll do our best to always put in the books or the podcast or whatever resources we throw out there. We'll put links in the show notes in the bottom so that you can click on those and follow those, because we'll probably reference a lot. Like I said, we read a lot. We listen to a lot of podcasts. And we probably won't reference, like if I say something about my woodworking stuff, I probably won't throw those in there unless you're interested.
Right.
Or your leather stuff. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But we'll definitely reference the books, put them in there, because everything is probably on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Most other podcasts are easy to find. So we'll put those in there to kind of help you figure those out. But we do want this to be as conversational as we can make it. So,
absolutely. And because of the nature of us most likely seeing you Sunday or Wednesday or something, don't hesitate to ask a question even then. If for some reason you can't type it out in a comment, or I know this with texting, you can ask a question in text and it comes off very different. We might not pick up on a nuance, or might be hard to explain, is all I'm kind of getting at. So utilize your opportunities. We can't always guarantee the timeliness of maybe a more pertinent question. In the podcast form, that is.
There is that real reality, because especially as the holidays come up, like I said, we'll probably pre-record some episodes and shoot them out to you. But, if you're like, hey, I need this question answered sooner than later, then you probably just want to ask us. And maybe we'll throw it into an episode later or whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much it for today.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, nothing fancy.
What's going to bother me is you can see my gray hair starting to grow a little patch.
Oh, man. I have one gray hair. It'll pop up around here, and I'll have to, dig for it.
Yeah. And
I'll pull it out. And I spent days searching for it or something, and then 2 days later it'll be back full length and everything. Man, and I think is this what makes people wizards?
Yo, Wizard Harry.
There we go. I was waiting for it. There we go.
Is that copyright infringement? That's why I turned my Yeti cup so you couldn't see the Yeti name. But hey, we love you guys.
Yeah.
Keep connecting the dots.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see y'all next time.